where your exits are located, both to your right and left, downstairs and upstairs. I encourage you to, turn cell phones to at least a point where it's not going to ring in the middle of somebody speaking up on stage. But certainly, please feel free to, tweet and Instagram and Facebook and all those good things that you would normally do. We want to thank you for being here for this very important evening. The arts are so important to Memphis. You are in a wonderful arts building. I know it because I work here and I've been here for 30 plus years. A lot of folks have been working on this event, and Anasa Troutman will be telling you a little bit more about that. We are on the set of The Prom. So if you've not yet come to see the show, come see that show as well too. But it's really important that you see the arts, that you come and enjoy them, whether it's theater or dance or music or the visual arts or any of the creative arts that we have in town. Memphis is a very unique place. And every time I travel to a different city, I often talk about how I think Memphis is special compared to where they are. All of the arts groups in Memphis, we talk to each other quite a bit. We share, we fellowship, we complain, we challenge ourselves, and we move forward as a city through our arts groups. And I'm so very proud that we are here this evening to talk about the arts, that these candidates are here to talk about the arts. And we're so very happy that you are here to share in this evening with us. I want to bring to the stage right now Anasa Troutman. She is the executive director of the historic Claiborne Temple and the Big We Foundation. Anasa Troutman, ladies and gentlemen.
It's really hard for me to be on a set like this and not want to do a kickball change, but I'm going to try really hard. Hello, everyone. How are y'all? I'm so happy to see you. My name is Anasa Troutman. I am the executive director of Historic Claiborne Temple. Shout out to Claiborne. That was for you to clap. And the Big We Foundation. So I feel like a lot of y'all have probably never heard of the Memphis Cultural Coalition. If you haven't, raise your hand. Very good. The reason why you haven't heard from us is because we are a clandestine organization undercover. Because we are just a bunch of art nerds who get together every month, sometime in person and sometimes on the Zoom. And it was really started all the way back in 2016. But where's Brett? I know you're in here. I saw you. Hi. Wave to the people, Brett. Brett Batterson, who is the executive director or the CEO, I'm not sure which one, of the Orpheum Theater, started the Memphis Cultural Coalition way back in 2016 with the vision of creating a more equitable and pervasive arts community here in Memphis, which is what we all want, right? I'm not convinced it's what we all want, right? And so we've been meeting and talking and being together and learning together for a long time. And recently, Brett and I had a conversation and he was like, I think it's time for me to give this up. Is this something that you want to do? And I was like, I thought you never ask. Because for me in my work, I'm a producer and a writer and a cultural strategist. And it's not just that I believe the artists are the ones who are telling the most important stories of our time. But I actually think that in moments like these, as we look forward to the most important mayoral election in years, in decades in Memphis, artists and arts organizations are actually the ones who are most equipped to help us reimagine our future. So, not only this actual event, but like actually the opportunity for us to work together to really think about what our Memphis looks like, who gets to have a voice, who gets to tell a story, whose story gets to shape the future of our own cultural reality is the most important conversation for us in this moment. I know there are budgets, I know there's crime, I know all that, but all that is born out of our culture, out of the stories that we tell each other, the things that we agree based on those stories. That is how we decide what our lives look like. So this right here is important to us. And I'm so grateful that y'all are here. Thank you for coming. I have something else to say. So I want to thank our sponsors. It's so, you know what's nice? When your list of sponsors are all the people who you work with every day. We didn't have to go out and call somebody out from wherever. We got on the call and said, who can show up for this work? And everybody was like, I can. So I'm going to read a list of my friends who are supporting this event tonight, if you don't mind. Playhouse on the Square. Community Foundation of Greater Memphis. Kazukian, who is live streaming this event right now to be on our Facebook page and our website. New Memphis. Memphis Music Initiative. Okay. Historic Claiborne Temple. Opera Memphis. Arts Memphis. And Bridges West, who have provided our wonderful interpreters tonight. Okay, so if you are an arts organization leader and you are not a part of the Memphis Cultural Coalition and you want to be, when I come back at the end, I will tell you how to find us. For everyone else, you can go to our website. It's memphisculture.com or our Instagram page, which is Memphis_culture. We're new. We don't have all the other things, but we'll have them at some point. And then I want to, who in here knows Rachel Knox? I know. Rachel Knox is one of the first people I met when I came to Memphis. Is kind of the reason why I moved here, because I lived somewhere else. And she was like, I'm sorry you live there. Why don't you live here? Well, Rachel is going to guide us through this evening tonight. I'm so excited about her because she is one of the most brilliant, one of the most fierce protectors of the arts here in Memphis. She is all of our best friend, and we are going to be in her capable hands all night long. I'll see y'all in a bit.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's forum. I have to tell you that as a former theater kid who has always loved politics, this is a dream come true. Tonight's conversation features candidates who reached the threshold of fundraising at least $50,000 by the July 31st deadline. So that's how we made the decision for this particular forum. So I ask that you'll please join me in welcoming tonight's candidates, J.W. Gibson, Michelle McKissick, Van Turner, and Paul Young. I just want to make a couple of quick notes. First of all, we told them they were going to be judged by how they entered the stage, so keep that in mind for tonight's events. Also, Representative Camper was scheduled to attend tonight's meeting, but she was, of course, called away to special session in Nashville, so please send her good thoughts. We also extended an invitation to Sheriff Floyd Bonner's campaign, but did not receive a response. So, but we have a great group of people with us tonight. Before we get started, I want to just set some ground rules for tonight's conversation. This robust conversation about Memphis arts and culture will feature questions specifically about financing and funding, infrastructure, policy, youth, and education. For our candidates, you will each have 90 seconds to answer your questions. We have these beautiful timekeepers down here on the front row. They will let you know when you have 60 seconds, 30 seconds remaining, and when your time is up. As soon as your time is up, I will intervene and we will either go to the next candidate or the next question. So make sure that you wrap it up, okay? There will be some yes or no questions that will require just a simple answer from you. We ask that you please be respectful and don't interrupt one another. We also ask that you please not direct questions to one another as part of your answer. Now, you're all adults, y'all can do what you want to, but you still got 90 seconds, so choose wisely. Can I get a verbal confirmation from our candidates they agree to tonight's rules?
I agree.
I agree.
Thank you. For our audience, just to let you know, questions were submitted in advance. Thank you so much to all of you who submitted questions for tonight's forum. They were sent to the participants in advance. We'll spend a total of 90 minutes in tonight's forum, and we ask the audience, please, no interruptions or interjections, just so we can keep the conversation flowing. Can I get a verbal confirmation from you all? Yes. Thank you. All right, are y'all ready? Yes. Let's go. All right, so I off the bat lied. We didn't send all of the questions to the candidates. So this first question.
I just thought I missed it.
We sent most of them, but this first one, we just want to get to know you. And the question is, what is your current level of involvement with artistic organizations in the city? And what is the last arts event that you attended? And we'll start with J.W. Gibson.
So the one that I'm mostly involved with is Hattie Lou Theater. And I just attended an event there, the opening of this season of Raisin in the Sun this past Friday, as a part of their opening and as a part of Stephanie White's birthday celebration. We had a wonderful time. The production was great.
It's fantastic. Michelle?
Well, you said that the stage is my oyster, so I'm going to take advantage of that. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle McKissick. I'm heavily involved in the arts. I'm so passionate about it. I am currently a board member with the Memphis Symphony Orchestra. I'm a former board member with the Memphis Brooks Museum of Art, and I'm a founder of a program at Downtown Elementary where all my children attended called Heart for Art. And that is where I really kind of got deeply involved in the arts and in my advocacy for the city of Memphis. As far as my last production that I was a part of, I took my daughter to go see Frozen at the Orpheum Theater, but we're always going to go see productions there. We're looking forward to seeing The Wizard of Oz when it comes to Playhouse on the Square coming up in November, I think it is. So we always like to get out and just be a part of the community to go see the art. So that's a little snapshot of my involvement.
Thank you. Van?
Van Turner, it's good to be here with you, and I thank all the sponsors. As a commissioner, I allocated several dollars to art programming, and I was happy to do so. Currently, I'm involved with Hattie Lou as well. I'm a former chair, like my cohort here, Mr. Gibson. Shout out to Ekundayo Bandele. He's doing a great job. We know he's next door. The last thing that I did was I attended an art memorial for Tyree Nichols. It was on 4th Bluff Park. The family and many organizations came together and they displayed the artwork of Mr. Nichols in commemoration of his life and in commemoration of what he loved to do.
Thank you. Paul?
Hello, I'm Paul Young, and I'm excited to be here with everyone today. In terms of arts organizations that I've been engaged with, there's been countless over the years. Most recently, I've done a lot of work with the Brooks Museum as they look to relocate to their new building downtown. Have also done some work with Claiborne Temple and all of the amazing assets that they're bringing to the downtown area from a development perspective. The last event that I went to was an amazing event during Juneteenth weekend that Tone Memphis put on at the Tower. It was an amazing display of talent, artists from all across this community. And what it told me is that Memphis is a hotbed for the arts. This is a place, yeah, give it up for Memphis. Yeah, we're a hotbed for the arts. I believe that it's our calling card as we talk about economic development and all of these different serious issues that plague our community. The arts is the thing that makes Memphis unique. It's the thing that other cities can't replicate. They can't replicate the talent that we have in this city, and we should use it as our calling card because our artists are carrying the brand of Memphis all across the world.
Love that. All right. Our first question was submitted by Doug Carpenter. And the question is, what role do the arts play in making Memphis more appealing for people to live here and stay here? We'll start with Michelle.
The arts are vital to that because it's an expression of who we are as a community. So I believe that we have to invest in the arts. That's something, as I touched upon, as I first spoke with you about, even starting with our young people. And when my children were first starting at Downtown Elementary, it was a brand new school. It didn't qualify for federal funding at the time because it was so new. So one of the first things they had to cut was they felt an art teacher. I found that unacceptable. And so I created a program called Heart for Art and got together with other parents, my husband, fundraising, and we hired 6 local artists throughout the school year, every 6 weeks grading period. I bought a kiln for the school so the children could learn pottery. So I believe it's just integral for the growth of a community. It helps make everyone whole in a sense, and which is why I address it as part of my platform, Whole City Memphis, talking about how do we make Memphis better? How do we make it whole again? And it's not necessarily just about the things that are obvious to us in terms of our safety and economic growth, but also the growth of us culturally as a community.
Van, we'll go to you next. For the same question, what role do the arts play in making Memphis more appealing for people to live here and stay here?
Well, I think that when you look at Memphis, we're known for certain things. I would say Beale Street, we're known for Graceland, and we're known for blues music. You don't have to go far from here to go to Stax Records. And Detroit has Motown, we have Stax, right? And so what we have not done a good job in the past of doing here in this city is leaning into what we have as strengths. When you go down to New Orleans, you already know where you're going. And if you're not going there, then you're not going to New Orleans, Bourbon Street. And so we have to make sure that Beale Street, that Graceland, that Stax, and all of those things which are known throughout the entire world are supported by the city. We need to make sure that we hire someone in our C-suite in the mayor's office to ensure that the arts are being supported, that they're on that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When they wake up in the morning and when they go to City Hall and when they leave City Hall, their main concern is how can we strengthen the arts? How can we include the arts in everything that makes Memphis, Memphis? We're doing a bad job of that now. I think we can do more in the future, and it's something that we have to do. When you look to Atlanta, they embrace it. When you look to Nashville, they're known for country music. We have to do the same here in this city. We have to embrace what we are. We have to lean into it, and we have to make sure that when you come to Memphis, you have a memorable experience, and that
Thanks,
includes
Van.
the arts.
Thank you. Paul, same question.
So we're in a national competition for talent. All across the country, cities are trying to figure out what are we going to do to bring talented people to our communities. The arts make Memphis special. I said this in my previous answer, but what young people are looking for are cities that have a vibe, that have an authenticity, that have a culture, something that they can feel. When cities like Nashville and Austin and these cities were booming over the last few years, what young people were saying is they just moved to those cities because they thought they were cool. They didn't even have a job. They just went. They went to those cities because it gave them an energy. We have something special in our city that we overlook. We forget that the arts is what carries our brand, and we should be using that to recruit talent. So as we talk about growing our economy, the arts is vital to making that happen. All of the major companies in our city, when they're trying to recruit talent, they're taking them to places like the Orpheum. They're taking them to Hattie Lou. They're taking them to our cultural hubs because those are the things that are going to draw people in. And as a city, we must find ways to invest in it even more deeply.
Thank you. JW.
The arts community is extremely vital to Memphis. But most of you know my involvement in the arts community. One of the things I have to say up front is how impressed I am about how the art community here in Memphis communicate as well as any that I've seen across the country. Throughout this campaign, I've been pushing the notion of collaboration. This art community that we have here in Memphis is all about that. So I salute you for that stepping up and being willing to collaborate. I've been involved and I've seen activities from our youth with YAG to our adults and on up. We cover the gamut from dance, from music, from visual art. It's all here in Memphis. The only thing different for me as I become mayor of the city of Memphis is that I would join you arm in arm as we go about the nation in recruiting more talent, recruiting more resources, and also recruiting more talent to come to Memphis and telling the story about Memphis arts community. It's a very, very promising proposition, and I look forward to it. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Our next question is actually a yes or no question, and it will be asked by Tracy Lorenzen Wright at Arts Memphis.
Good evening. So my question, as Rachel said, is yes or no, and it kind of piggybacks nicely onto this first question. So our artistic legacy here in Memphis is known globally, and the nonprofit art sector specifically and individual artists are a significant part of our local economy. Shelby County has formed an arts and culture office with designated staff. As has been mentioned, other cities like Nashville and New Orleans have an office dedicated to supporting arts and culture. If elected, would you create and enact long-term funding to support a similar office for Memphis?
Yes.
Let's start with Van. Yes or no?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
JW?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
All right. All right, we're going to dig into this topic a little bit further, and I am going to invite Elizabeth K. Wine with Music Export Memphis to ask the next question.
Many other U.S. cities have directed a portion of their city's hotel occupancy tax to support arts initiatives, including most recently in Austin, where a $15 million plus fund is supporting music venues as cultural assets. Would you support reallocating some of our hotel occupancy tax? And if not, what other ideas do you have to generate capital for the arts?
We'll start with Paul on this question.
Yeah, so I think the hotel motel tax is pretty much tapped out right now. But I think there's a little bit of room. I can't remember exactly how many cents are left that can be added. So certainly I would be willing to explore it, especially if it's going to help us recruit more people to our city. I think the thing that we must have as a pertinent factor whenever you're adding to the hotel motel tax is that there's going to be an increase in people actually visiting the city and spending money on hotel rooms. And so we would have to build an attraction that's going to recruit enough people to justify it. But I also think that we can be creative with resources that we already have. We have resources. We have the debt cliff that's coming with an additional $50 million. There's a lot of priorities that are going to be needed to be paid for out of that annual $50 million. But investment in the arts is very, very important. And I want to make sure that we have the appropriate venues to support the type of energy that we want to give to this sector in our community.
Thank you. JW?
So I agree that the sales tax might be limited. However, there's other options. The 50 million that Paul alluded to is an option, but a lot of people are going to be grabbing at those dollars. One of the things that I don't hear folks talk about, but I think it's an excellent opportunity, and that's the recreation of a grant department to be housed in housing and community development. A department that will focus on identifying grant dollars at the state level and the federal level. Also working with national foundations that have an interest in Memphis. Memphis has caught the attention of a lot of national foundations. And I believe if we put our heads together through this operation of a grant department, there are dollars out there that we're going to be able to bring to the table. And again, I will be out there with you recruiting those funds.
Thank you. Michelle?
I think the hotel occupancy tax is a great starting point to say that how can we utilize some of those dollars for the tourists who are coming here to Memphis. Memphis is already, as we've already established, extremely well known for our arts community. In fact, Beale Street, not too long ago, I was doing New Year's Eve, I was broadcasting live, and it was noted that Beale Street was one of the most iconic streets in America, right along with Bourbon Street and streets of that nature. And I encounter tourists all the time downtown who come to Memphis specifically for our arts. So this is something that we would definitely love to look into as in my administration of how do we go about attracting and supporting arts even more so through the hotel occupancy tax, but also through other avenues of grants, seeking out federal support and also national philanthropic support as well.
Thank you. Van?
Yeah, I think the hotel and motel tax is something to look at. The $50 million coming in is another part of resources that we could utilize in order to fund these kinds of programs. We also have to look at incentivizing the programs and the actual movies and things that are coming to the city. And if you all are here, you can think of the three things or the three big moments in Memphis television or movie history. You have The Firm with Tom Cruise, right? So after The Firm, you have Hustle and Flow. And after Hustle and Flow, I believe most recently we've had Bluff City Law. So we've had those opportunities to be on the national stage, and they've kind of fizzled out. And so what we have to do is incentivize more of these producers to come to Memphis to write, to put on their shows, to put on their movies. And there are incentives that we can use to do that. They do it in other cities. We should do it here. They do it in Atlanta. They do it in New Orleans. They do it in Nashville. Why are we not using these incentives to do it here as well? And that would allow us to attract these big dollar movies and these TV programs and run them from the city. And once we hit one, others will come as well. So we fund it with the grant funds, the hotel motel tax, with the $50 million, but we also look at how we do these incentive packages to make sure that we are attractive and are competitive to make Memphis a destination for these kinds of movies.
Thank you. All right. Y'all can clap. Don't be scared. The next question is actually a question that the Memphis Cultural Coalition Planning Committee put together, and it's going to be asked by Fahisha Hassan.
Greetings, and I am the program director at Historic Claiborne Temple. Thank you.
We love it.
Am I the drama? Okay. Our question that we are deeply passionate about: how would you ensure the arts and creative economy are considered in all aspects of city planning? From artists to organizations to creative entrepreneurs, how would you ensure the arts and culture makers of the city are better integrated into community and economic planning and development?
We're going to start with Michelle on this question.
Okay. So what I would do is that, first of all, we need a liaison proper for the city of Memphis. I know that the Shelby County government has an arts liaison, and that's what we can begin there, but also including the arts organizations as a part of my transition team. That would be a key component of mine. Like I said, the arts have always been just extremely important to me, not only just as a citizen of this community, but having been impacted by it through my own mother, who the former Memphis Arts Council supported her when her music was being presented in Prague, in the Czech Republic. And so they know the value of this relationship between not only celebrating Memphis here locally or even in the state or nationally, but also internationally. We receive so many tourists from around the world, and they're not all coming here just for Elvis Week. They're coming here to celebrate Memphis, all that we have to offer. So that's something that's critical, just to make it a part of regular everyday conversation. It's not about having just a one time where we're meeting here. This is a great start, having this type of gathering, but including this throughout the year through regular meetings and interactions with the arts community.
Van.
So as I've stated before, I think we need to have someone in the C-suite at City Hall that's on this day in and day out. We need to fund this position. They need to have a staff. And they need to really look at what we can do to incentivize our arts and really push the Memphis culture out to the nation and the world abroad. I mean, we have a beautiful city. We have a beautiful culture. People come here just to rub elbows with you. They come here just to eat our barbecue, to walk down a street that we sometimes take for granted, Beale Street. They come to where I grew up in Whitehaven to go to see Graceland Mansion. So we have to make sure that we are really maximizing this great opportunity that we have, and we're not doing it. And there needs to be someone in City Hall on this day in and day out that's doing it. We have to lean into it, and we have to be serious about it. And that's the only way that it's going to get done.
Thank you. Paul?
So first and foremost, I think we have someone in the mayor's administration that's going to be focused on arts and culture as a liaison to the community, to stay connected to all of the various organizations, so that as we're talking about various issues in the administration, there's always someone there that has the pulse of the arts community. Second, as we think about community development, economic development, and planning, similar to when I was a part of the leadership for Memphis 3.0, we want to make sure that we are folding artists into the planning efforts. I see Yancy Villa here. She was a part of our artistic community that worked with our neighborhoods to help them think about how can art installations help rally the community around certain spaces, because we know that art is a way of helping people identify where they are. It helps them feel a unique brand for their community. And so we want to make sure that the arts is always embedded in everything that we do, all the way down to the neighborhood level, so that the community can feel that sense of pride when they look at their homes.
Thank you. JW?
So I think that's an excellent question, and thanks for asking it. One of the things I have to tell you, that from my perspective, we're at the stage here in Memphis where we got to be about it instead of just talking about it. I'm the only one on this stage, or only one that's in this campaign that has this issue as one of my platform positions, to deal with local music, local cultural, and entertainment. It's a platform position of mine. It automatically will become a part of my administration. We will provide ongoing resources to elevate Memphis music and the cultural community. Matter of fact, I'd like to take this opportunity to extend to all of you an opportunity on 901 Day, this coming Friday, to participate in a free concert that we're hosting at the Music Room, whereby we're showcasing local talent across genres. That's the type of commitment that you're asking for. That's the type of commitment that I'm bringing to the table as your next mayor.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
So our next question digs a little bit further into this topic. It was submitted by Elizabeth Rouse. The question is, how will you specifically use the arts community as a resource to accomplish other city goals? Please give one example. And I'm going to start with Van Turner.
Well, I look no further than what has occurred with Mr. Nichols. So here's a man that was driving in my old county commission district, District 12, and he had not committed any crime. He was pulled over and beat to death. And what we found out afterwards was that he was an artist. He was a skateboarder and he was a photographer. His art has now gone worldwide, and that story is being told over and over again. And so what this will represent for us is the opportunity for true reform. Art can now become culture. Art can now become change. What will be the legacy of Mr. Nichols? We shouldn't just remember him lying on the ground, asking not to be beat to death, calling out for his mother. We should remember him for the art and what he tried to do as a photographer. Through his art, we can start a movement. We can put forth and pass the Tyree Nichols Criminal Justice Reform Act. And art will be so pivotal in making that happen. Art plays such an integral part in our lives, and it has been a change agent. When we look at the civil rights movement, art was right there with those who were marching and protesting, making sure that it was memorialized and making sure that we can still see what we see today. We have to lean into what our strengths are, and that would be something that can be done.
Thank you. Paul?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. How will you specifically use the arts community as a resource to accomplish your city goals? Please give an example.
I mean, I think about the fact of that we have such a strong musical heritage in our community. I talked about how the arts brand our city and our community. I think we could have festivals similar to how New Orleans has the festival that everyone goes to. I don't know why I'm blanking on
Essence.
it. Essence, yeah, I couldn't get it out. Essence Festival. We need those type of signature festivals that identify who we are as a city. There's no reason with the culture and the heritage that we have that we couldn't have something similar that has people coming from all across the world to visit our community. That's economic development. I think about our neighborhoods and how think about like the Soulsville mural, something that defines a community. We should have signature art installations in every neighborhood in our city so that you just see an image and you know it's Memphis. And if you're from Memphis, you know which part of Memphis it is. Those are the types of things that communities can rally around. It instills pride, and it's something that I'm deeply, deeply committed to making sure happens as a part of the Young administration.
Thank you. JW.
So again, I would submit to you that my commitment is there because it's a part of my platform positions. I would submit to you that my commitment is there because we want to join forces with you, with my administration, in traveling the country to recruit more talent, to bring more corporations. As most of you in the business community recognize, when we recruit corporations to come here, one of the questions they ask you is about the cultural community. How active are they? Are there multiple things for them and their employees to involve themselves with? Here in Memphis, we can say yes, there are a multitude of things for them to involve themselves with. In my platform positions, and there's 6 of them, and I invite you to go to J.W. Gibson for Mayor and review those 6 platform positions. The art community plays a role in each one of those 6 platform positions that we have, from community development to education to crime prevention. There's significant roles that you guys play in my goals of trying to take Memphis to a totally different level. I welcome you to be a part of that effort, and I'm going to be reaching out to you to engage you to be a part of those efforts. Again, J.W. Gibson for Mayor. Check out my website, please.
Thank you. Michelle.
The arts, whether we're talking about performing arts, visual arts, there are so many ways to incorporate it into so many areas here in Memphis. An example of that I've already instituted was with the Memphis River Parks. When I was busting out loose from the pandemic, and so my family and I, 2 years ago, we went to go visit some national parks out west. I was so overwhelmed by what I saw, I immediately sent a LinkedIn message to Carol Coletta. And I said, how can I bring the essence of what I'm experiencing back to the children of this community? So we met up for coffee when I got back. And as a result of that relationship, not too long afterwards, she says, Michelle, I've got an idea about how do we go about creating a classroom in the new Tom Lake Park down on the riverfront. And she goes, but we need a grant. And so through that, we can produce a visual arts class where students could come down and paint the river and showcase that. And so as a result of that, I connected her through MSCS, and so they were able to help her with that application, which they ultimately won from a national foundation to create this outdoor classroom at the at the Tom Lake Park down on the riverfront. So that's just one example of how you can think creatively and work together. It helps our young people, which is a part of crime prevention. All of these sorts of things, the arts are integral into making our city better. So it's a part of my whole city Memphis plan, and you can visit and find out more at michellefrommemphis.com.
Thank you all. So we're going to switch tacks a little bit. Whitney Houston said, I believe children are our future. And yet in Memphis, we underfund arts education, even though we know how important it is and how it strengthens other areas in academia. What can the city do to help facilitate stronger arts programs in schools, after school, and summer school programs? We'll start with Paul.
Yeah, so yesterday we had another debate, and well, it wasn't a debate, it was a forum. But at that forum, I gave a stat, and I think it's a really important one, that 60% of the factors that drive educational outcomes happen outside of the classroom. That's where I believe the city should be playing a significant role. As Memphis and Shelby County Schools educates our young people from 7 to 3, the city should be touching those same young people from 3 to 7. We should be investing in programs that engage them in the arts. We should be investing in our community centers. We should be investing with our churches. We should be investing in these nonprofits that are already out here doing the work. All they need is more resources to take their work to scale. I want to be the mayor to make sure that we are directing those resources to those nonprofits, and not just the big nonprofits. I want to find the folks who are out here doing this work for free. I want to figure out, how do we make deep investments in our young people in a way that we've never done before? And I believe the arts is a critical part of that, and I'm going to be the mayor to make sure that we get those resources to the people that need it.
Thank you, Paul. JW?
Thank you. So I think the key to it all is, how creative are you? What's your vision? How do you bring that into play? One of the things that I believe we can do that has been missing is taking advantage of workforce investment dollars coming from Nashville. The city of Memphis decided to get out of workforce development approximately 8 years ago with the new administration. Not sure why, but we did. Under my administration, we will become engaged in workforce development, and we will partner up with MSCS as we take a look at CCTE, where we can flux some of those workforce dollars to train junior high and high school students on jobs that can support facilities like Playhouse on the Square, Hattie Lou Theater, be that lighting professional for shows that are coming to FedEx. There's so many different things that we can do if we put our creative hats on and have a little vision and think outside the box. That's what my administration will bring to you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Arts education is critical for the growth of a child. And right now, the city of Memphis, its youth services division only serves about 1,500 kids a year. Well, there's 110,000 in our school district and all the families associated with them. That makes up our community. And so, as I mentioned earlier, arts education is important because even at Downtown Elementary, it was a brand new school, the school district couldn't provide what the students needed at that time. So we stepped up as a community of a school. So that's what needs to happen with our arts community. You have to have an impact on other groups. You can't continue to work in silos. Wonderful nonprofits are doing the work, but they need that support system from the city of Memphis to invest in, because that's what makes a child whole. And there are so many ways that it can manifest itself. I love to tell the story about how the superintendent of the Smoky Mountains National Park, he's from Memphis, from Orange Mound, but he was exposed as a child to nature and as a Boy Scout. Those sorts of things make a difference. With the Memphis College of Art being gone, we need to step up even more so to support young people. So that's what I would love to do as part of my administration.
Thank you. Van?
Yeah. I believe that Whitney Houston lyric was, I believe the children are our future, teach them well and let them lead the way. If you really know that song. Teach them well and let them lead the way. What we're not doing is funding our young people, and we're not allowing them to lead the way. If you look at any movement in this country, it was started by young people. So we have to make sure that our young people are being funded. Memphis does not fund its young people. We have removed the funding to K through 12 education, and look at the results that we're dealing with now. It's no wonder why we're seeing what we see now. We don't have any skin in the game. And so we don't have no right to complain if we're not investing in the solution. So what I would do as mayor is go back to reinvesting in our young people, investing in our school system, K through 12 education, and I would directly allocate funding for arts and culture. We've taken band out the classroom. We've taken art out the classroom. We've taken so many things out of the classroom, and now we're wondering why we're in the state that we're in. We are causing the problem that we're complaining about. One, I would fund K through 12 education. Two, I would extend community center hours so that our young people are still able to execute and to do the things that they would like to do as far as arts and culture and band in those community centers, which are open with extended hours. That's what I would do.
Thank you. So speaking of our future, this next question is submitted by and will be asked by Allison Smith, who is the future of the Memphis community. So Allison.
Hey, everybody. As a native Memphian, a recent Howard graduate, and emerging creative who intentionally returned to the Memphis community, I'm eager to understand your plan for fostering an environment that empowers young people to not only establish roots here, but also excel within the realm of arts and culture. How will you allocate resources to ensure abundant opportunities and support for the growth and sustainability of artists, activists, and other young visionaries in our vibrant creative sector without hindering their aspirations?
You better ask that question. We're going to start with JW for this one.
I love that. So again, without fear and being redundant, I have to say to you again, that 6th platform position of mine where we cater to the music and cultural community goes far and long. That's a commitment that I'm making to you, that we will establish an office within my administration that will be responsible for going out into the community, creating those collaborative opportunities, recognizing not only here in Memphis, but across the nation, those resources that could be available, made available to you and others here in Memphis without any restrictions. We're talking about opening up the city of Memphis for what is truly known for nationally and what we as Memphians knows about the overall cultural community. We're gonna let that shine. We're not gonna handicap you. We're gonna be supportive of yours. We're gonna be by your side as we look to expand on those opportunities.
Thank you. Michelle?
I think the answer is right in your question. You are the solution, And so in terms of young people and actually having you be a part of the conversation and not just being a part of it, but leading it. And so having a hub, so to speak, an arts hub within the city of Memphis as a part of that liaison that I was talking about, where we're directly interacting and working with young people to say, you tell us what your interests are, what are your needs, and how can we make this community more vibrant? Because that is our future. That's why it's so important to have a difference of thoughts, because that's what you bring into it. And so just looking at things with a completely new and fresh lens. So that's what I would do. I would make our emerging young artists and creatives like yourself and so many others, because that is our superpower here in Memphis, that all of the talent that we have here, we just need to let it flourish and let it thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Van?
So I believe we have to first make sure that our artists are being paid, and they're being paid correctly and appropriately, and that they're making a living wage. And so the city has a direct involvement in doing so, and I think that we need to do so. Artists are part of this city. You all should be employed that way. You all should be funded that way. You all should be employees of the city or contractors with the city, because you are an attraction for Memphis. Now, people don't think I look so great, they just come in to see me. But I think that people will come and hear what our artists and our activists have to say and what they're doing. So we should figure out a way to partner with you all and make sure that you are properly cared for. You have benefits. You have those things that we are enjoying as everyday citizens who work other jobs. This is a job. You should be paid appropriately, and you should have those benefits. I think number two, we need to make sure that there's housing subsidies. Oftentimes we have guest artists who come to town. I think there's housing here for this theater, but we need to expand that, and we need to have it such that when you come and you play on Beale Street, there's housing, there are other opportunities. And finally, we need to have guest artists at our universities teaching classes to make income. Why can't you teach at Rhodes? Why can't you teach at Lemoyne Owen College? Why can't you teach at other places to supplement your income? Thank you very much.
Paul?
So a couple of months ago, I had a conversation with an artist who actually lives in Atlanta. He's from Memphis, graduated from East High School, and he said something that was very compelling to me. He said, man, when I travel across the country, when I tell people I'm from Memphis, man, the doors just open up, just because I say I'm from Memphis. But when I come back to Memphis, it's like the doors just close. It's like we aren't appreciated as artists. And I think from a city perspective, we have to change that narrative. We have to find ways to ensure that our artists are getting fair pay. That's why at Downtown Memphis Commission, we started a policy where if we are hosting an event, we're gonna make sure that each individual musician gets at least $250 per gig, because we wanna lead by example. And we're hoping that other venues on Beale Street will do the same, because I've heard from some others that say they don't get that. They don't get that type of treatment. The other thing is that we have to recognize what's happening right now in our city. I was listening to Breakfast Club, Charlamagne the God. He said that Memphis has the hottest hip hop scene in the country. How many people in Memphis even realize it? We don't appreciate it. In Atlanta, I bet they know that they're the hottest scene in hip hop in the country. We should be appreciating the artists that are out here representing the Memphis brand, hosting different events, and doing things that we can to elevate the future artists that are coming up right behind them.
Thank you. Really appreciate the thoughtfulness of all of your answers for that one. And thank you, Allison, because you are our future. So I'm very excited you're here. So our next question kind of gets to something that Turner and Young were talking about, which is without artists, art does not exist. We don't have music, there are no paintings, there's no dance. Theaters and museums are empty without artists. However, in a recent survey, approximately half of the respondents who identified as creatives reported that they felt like they could not make a living, let alone thrive as an artist in our city. Many artists report low rates of pay, being paid in cash. They also reported wage theft. In addition, the gig economy leaves many musicians and individual artists without access to benefits and healthcare, making it nearly impossible to plan for a thriving future. If elected, what are your plans to encourage fairer working conditions for musicians and individual artists? We'll start with Michelle.
This is something that we've had to face as a part of the Memphis Symphony Orchestra board. We started a program where we had young musicians to apply, and musicians of color specifically for the symphony where they are lacking in that community. And so how could we attract more musicians of color to the Memphis Symphony Orchestra? And so we were having conversations about this, and what we did was we created fellowships where we could not only bring them in and pay them a very livable wage, we would also offer them housing that was discounted so to help supplement that income, but then also to help further their future with supporting them through arts education through the University of Memphis. So tapping into various different pillars in our community to help shore up supporting artists. That's one way that we did it through the Memphis Symphony Orchestra. And I think that's something that we can use as a model for other areas, other mediums, when you're talking about the visual artists, the performing artists. So it's something that we can perhaps present an environment where they know that they can link up to a program where they know that they would get subsidized housing through the arts.
Thank you. Van?
So I think first we have to pay a living wage. When I first was elected on the county commission, the living wage was $15 an hour. That was 2014. Now we are well beyond that being a living wage, and our artists are making well below that amount. The city is in a position to model what others should be doing. The city should model a living wage, a true living wage for all of its employees, and we should put that out and say that this is what should be done with our artists. Next, benefits. You can make all the money that you want, but if you don't have the benefits, if you don't have those other accessories which are necessary for you to live day to day, all of your money goes to that. All of your money goes to healthcare. So we have to make sure that the benefits are also something that we contemplate and we support. And finally, we have to take the load off. If our artists have a family, what about affordable childcare? These are things that your money go into. And so we have to take that load off these artists. So we pay a living wage, we make sure the benefits are part of the package, and we provide affordable childcare for our artists to make sure that they're not having to really put their whole entire paycheck to taking care of their young people. We should do that again because these are pillars of this community. They are helping to make this city better and to attract tourists to Memphis. And so we should treat them as such, and we should support them as such. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
So I mentioned earlier, as a part of my work with Downtown Memphis Commission, we've already started to make sure that we are leading by example, by making sure that some of our musicians are paid a fair wage. I believe that as mayor, we continue that type of work, but we also look at the other types of art, visual artists that are doing work and installations throughout our community. We have to make sure that we are paying them a fair wage. Then we have to think about what are the other things that we can do as a city to offset costs for the artists, the ones that are bringing the vibe, that's bringing the culture, that's bringing the brand to our city. I've often talked about from an affordable housing perspective, how we have a crisis on our hands. And I know artists are feeling that. Housing costs are increasing, but the cost of living is not. I mean, in terms of the wages that they're being paid. And one of the ideas that I have is to make sure that we form our own housing subsidy as a city. Right now, we rely on Section 8 housing vouchers, and we have about 8,000 of them in circulation right now with another 8,000 people on the waiting list. What other cities have done is they've established their own form of housing vouchers to help offset the exorbitant rental prices that people are paying. And we should have different classifications for artists. There are working families that cannot provide a space to live. And so as a city, we have to be creative with how we come up with ideas. And I believe that artists would be prime examples of people that would be eligible for programs like that.
Thank you. JW?
So that's a very complicated issue. However, we're not that far off from coming with a resolution that could be solid. As you know, Rachel, we do have the support of foundations who are offering support for housing of our artists. We do have support coming from our healthcare industry that's providing medical care for our artists. As your mayor, I will advocate for the expansion of those existing programs. I will look to create opportunities for us to expand on those programs and bring in more players. We're not that far off. We got a lot of challenges here in Memphis, but a lot of the answers to those challenges are low-hanging opportunities that if we come together and put on our creative hats, we can address and resolve a lot of those issues. And this is one that I commit to you, my administration will take on within the first 100 days.
Thank you. Our next question comes to us from Rashetta Watkins. Woo-woo!
Again, thank you all very much for being with us tonight. My question takes us in a little bit different direction. So here it is. As mayor, how would you advocate for Memphis's arts and cultural heritage sector in Nashville? How would you strategize with local arts leaders and our state representatives to secure more and broader state and federal support for the individual artists, organizations, and businesses that make up our arts sector?
Thank you. We'll start with Van for this question.
Well, first, what we'll do, Ms. Watkins, is make sure that we have a good lobbyist that can go to Nashville and lobby for our interests. And we know what the makeup of Nashville is. It's a supermajority Republican House, supermajority Republican Senate, and we have a Republican mayor. I'm not a Republican, so I need to make sure I employ a good strategy firm, a public relations firm that can do the work in Nashville that needs to be done to bring those resources in. Second, we need to take that same lobbying effort to Washington, D.C. I think there are federal dollars that we're leaving there in Washington. Other cities are capitalizing on bringing those funds to their cities to support the arts. We have to do it as well. And it's a transaction. We have to make sure that something is in it for Nashville. At the end of the day, that's what moves the conversation. What's in it for me? We have to make sure that the programming that we're doing and what we are trying to incentivize includes Nashville in the deal. We may be Democrat, we may be Republican, but at the end of the day, if the money is on the table and the money is being divided equitably, they will come and get on board because we know that that will fund what has to be funded in Tennessee. So those would be three things that I would do. Lobbying in Nashville, lobbying in Congress, and then finally making sure that we're putting the right deal on the table.
Thank you. Paul?
I think the first step is building relationships. And I have a history of being able to build relationships across all partisan, racial, demographic lines. That's who I am. And I think that's what it's going to take to have a strong relationship with Nashville on many topics, including the arts. But we need Nashville. We need them to understand our community, the needs of urban Memphis, and the challenges that we have in our community. As it relates to the art, I would love to advocate for greater incentives for film and music. It's something that states like Louisiana and Georgia have done very well, and it's resulted in their industries growing in those states. We have to make the case that there's going to be a financial benefit to Nashville. And when I say Nashville, I mean the city of Nashville, not state government, but the city of Nashville as well as the city of Memphis, because we are the two hotbeds. We all saw the city of Nashville take off, skyrocketed, after they had a television show called Nashville. That show put them on the map. And we know that if we are able to create more opportunities like that to brand the state of Tennessee, there's a benefit to our respective cities, but there's also a benefit to the state. And so I think being able to advocate around the collective good for what the arts can bring to our community is going to be something that I can do very, very well through building those relationships with those representatives in state government.
Thank you. JW?
So Paul is extremely correct when he talks about the relationships. The relationships between Memphis and Nashville and Memphis and Washington, D.C. has to improve significantly. The timing in which we approach building these relationships has to change 360 degrees. Having a lobbyist is fine and dandy, but the key to the success of us being able to bring more resources to the city of Memphis is threefold. We have got to have that grant department that focus every day in, day out, on identifying those opportunities locally, statewide, and federally. We have got to get our local delegation, including city council, county commissioner, and our Shelby County delegation, on the same page of how we're going to approach Nashville and DC. And we got to make that approach in a decent time. We can't wait to the last minute when the budget has already been decided in Nashville as to what we want to ask for. We should be collective in our thoughts. We should be collective in our approach. Collaboration, engagement from this community will allow us that opportunity to do those things and be more effective at doing those things.
Thank you. Michelle?
We like to have a fun rivalry between Memphis and Nashville. We all talk about that, but we really are underutilizing the collaboration that could take place there. You think about I-40, it's known as the music highway between Memphis and Nashville. Well, we need to promote that because there's power and strength in numbers. In Nashville, you have, country music and hot chicken. Here in Memphis, we got blues, barbecue, and rock and roll, and everything else in between. So I think that we need to utilize that relationship and do more to partner together to go after not only just our state funding, but also at the federal level, those dollars can come back here. Because on the 4th of July, there were two couples that were here internationally, and they came to Memphis first. I met them at a 4th of July parade because they wanted to experience a little bit of Americana. So they went to the Central Gardens 4th of July parade. And there they were saying, I said, well, what were you going to do after you leave Memphis? They were heading on to Nashville. We need to take advantage of that and work with the tourism division, because if we're uplifting Nashville and Memphis together, we all can uplift the arts community, because people want to see this area of the country. And we're only, 2.5, 3 hours apart if you have a lead foot. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So our next question is around the city budget. This is also a question from Dr. Watkins. Memphis is a majority Black city, yet we know that much of the funding does not necessarily go to Black and Brown led and serving institutions within the city. How would you structure the city's budget to support more equitable funding to Black and Brown arts organizations, artists, and communities? And Paul, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, I think it's a simple. You just make it a priority. We prioritize making sure that we invest in these organizations that are in the communities, that are in the neighborhoods, that are already working with the people. I said it in an earlier answer. I want to find ways to invest in the folks that have been out here doing the work for free or almost free because they've had so little resources. And as mayor, you can prioritize. You can tell your division, I'm the only one up here who has managed the city budget, who has had city budgets approved year after year. And as someone who has led a city division, I know that if the mayor says this is our priority, we're going to find ways to make those investments. In an $800 million budget, imagine what 5% of the budget could do. You can change so many lives in our community. And so for me, it's simple as setting it as a priority and making it happen. And when it's not happening, demanding answers from the division directors and the people that report up, because that's the way you make change happen. As the leader, you have to set the tone. And that's exactly what I'm going to do as mayor. I really, really mean it when I say I want to find ways to invest differently in this community. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. We're going to do something different. We got to change lives. There are people out here that are hurting. And I want to see different results. And the way to do that are invest in the people that are already on the ground.
Thank you. JW.
So I would submit to you, it's easy said than done. What really has to happen is an opportunity for us to create and plant the seeds that will allow us to grow these opportunities. That grant department that I talk about is more than just identifying those potential grants. It's working with the Black non-for-profit organizations, understanding what it is they're attempting to do, understanding what it is they need, and creating strategies with those non-for-profits to go after the appropriate dollars at the appropriate location, be that city, state, or federal government, or amongst the national federations or foundations. We have to put the work in to create that opportunity for growth, not just talk about what we're going to give from one to the other, because that's not going to happen. But we do have the opportunity to create a brighter future through doing the hard work and growing together. I promise you we could do it. Let's do it together.
Thank you. Michelle?
Just as we have MWBE programs, when you think about contracts for the city, there is a certain percentage. So I think, first of all, we need to set a goal of how we need to invest in our arts community, and specifically in our Black and Brown community in the arts that are being left behind. And so when you actually set a percentage, when you can measure where you need to be making your investment, that's when you can start to make an impact. Because if you're just saying, well, we want to support the arts community, but you don't have a bar in which you can measure it against, then it gets lost. And so I believe also just helping to work with our arts community. And a great example of that is the Arts Guild that just recently opened up on Lamar Avenue, or is in the process of opening there at Lamar Avenue in Pendleton. It's like near my old neighborhood. And so it's just so gratifying to see that's something that the city of Memphis has been working toward. And they sold that business, that location rather, for $1 or some nominal amount, so that basically gave it over so they could take this property that had been empty for years and blighting the neighborhood there, that it turned into something positive. So now that the arts aren't having to go outside of communities, they're coming into communities to help revitalize them. So that's what I would make a priority.
Thank you. Van?
So we have states which are outlawing critical race theory, so we can't even teach our young people, like my beautiful daughter is here, we can't even teach our young people the true history of this country. We have a Supreme Court that's cut a woman's right to choose, they've cut affirmative action, and now they're cutting Section 8A funding, which means that minority contracting is about to be more difficult than what it has been in the past. When I was a commissioner, I put forth a moratorium because a $100 million deal had no minority participation at all. And I said, as a commissioner to the mayor, we are not signing off on any deals unless we have fair and equitable spending on behalf of the county government. He relented and we were able to execute that. I'll do the same as mayor. If the deal is not right as the sole contracting agent for the city, I won't sign the deal. I'll send it back out to bid, and I'll keep sending it back out to bid until we have a contract that's fair and equitable across the board. Number two, I'll name a fair and equitable RFQ and RFP scoring team. I've passed $8 billion budgets as a county commissioner, as county chair, as budget chair for county government. 8 budgets, over $1 billion. And I know where the rubber meets the road. It's the RFQ scoring team. If you don't have the right individuals there that are scoring the projects, that are making sure that they are doing what it has to take to retain those qualifications, it won't work. And finally, what I would do is have prospect meetings to make sure folks are knowing what's going on. Thank you very much.
All right, we are rounding third and about to slide into home, or this is after the intermission, the show's almost over. I don't know. Our next question was submitted by Dacre Baptiste at the Orpheum Theater Group and will be asked by Kristen Bennett. And it is a yes or no question.
Would you be open to creating and maintaining funding that directly supports arts access in the city to include entry/performance tickets, production costs, and transportation assistance, for example?
We'll start with JW.
I don't know about that. I'll just be honest with you.
Okay.
I have a lean towards that direction, but we will have to talk about that in more details.
Okay. Michelle?
Yes or no, correct?
Yes or no?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, here is our last question. What specific measures do you plan to promote and market the arts in our community more broadly, from performers, presenting organizations, museums, and cultural institutions? And we will start with JW.
Again, it goes back to that sixth platform position that I continue to talk about and want you guys to really read and understand. Because again, that will create an office within my administration to do all of this work that we're alluding to. Without that level of commitment from the mayor's office, whereby he identifies a senior level office holder to focus on these type of opportunities, it's not going to get done. We can talk about wanting to move dollars from one department to another, but again, that's easier said than done. I want to be about how we come up with new solutions, new creative ideals that can allow this community and other communities within this city to grow without constantly fighting every year for your allocation of the budget, because it's just not that easy to transfer money. That sixth platform position of mine, whereby we create that department, you will see a lot of positive results that will cater to the needs of this community.
Thank you. Michelle?
What I've seen in other cities that I don't see quite as much here is cross-promotion among the different museums and the arts. Like when you go, say if you're going to go to New York or whatever, or perhaps even over in Europe, they really promote that, a pass, where you have an arts pass. A lot of times you'll have season tickets for this theater or other theaters, but if you have a cross-promotion pass among the different theaters. Another thing that I would like to see done is reaching out to fourth graders. Fourth graders, there's a sweet spot about being a 9-year-old. They're just aware enough to know what's going on in the world, but then they're still malleable enough to say, okay, let's try this. And then also, if you give them a free guest pass to various different programs, then you bring in their families. And that's what we always want to do. We want to expand, and parents follow a lot of times what their kids want to do. I know that my poor kids certainly did, always pulling me here and there. So that's just a program to cross-promote between our museums, between our arts institutions, just to make it feel more welcoming, not only just to tourists, but to locals. That's what we really want to focus on.
Thank you. Van?
Can I have the question one more time?
Yes, absolutely. The question is, what specific measures do you plan to promote and market the arts in our community more broadly, from performers, presenting organizations, museums, and cultural institutions?
Well, I mean, that's an easy task because there's so much to market about Memphis. And so what we have to do is, I've seen the commercials and you've seen them too. Come to St. Louis. We have all this going on in St. Louis. So come to this city, New Orleans, because we have all of this going on. What we have to do is make sure that we are building relationships with the other city mayors. And we are opening up the doors of opportunity, and we are making sure that we are inviting the tourists and the artists and those who would come and pick up shop and do what they're doing in St. Louis and New Orleans and Atlanta and DC here in Memphis. That's one thing that I think we're not doing well enough. Two, again, we have to make sure that we are supporting the artists that are here on the ground because they talk. When I was in LA, I met that same experience someone else discussed. They had to go to LA to make a living being an artist because they were not supported here. We have to create an environment in this city where artists are welcome and they're supported, and that word will get out and other artists will want to come here and work and live and contribute to what makes Memphis great. So I think those are a couple of things that we could do to really promote the arts and make sure that we are opening the city for other artists to come and really support and accentuate all the beauty and all the things that make Memphis so great.
Thank you. Paul?
So I've been working in community development for the past 20 years. And the number one thing I hear when I talk to residents and communities is that they just don't know. They don't know information about what's happening in our communities. And in local government, what we often do is expect them to meet us where we are. So we put out something in the newspaper, or we put out a press release and somebody pick it up and put a line in, one of the Daily Memphian, or it's a ticker at the bottom of the screen, and people just don't see it. And so when it comes to promoting the arts, I would love to be the champion that forms a centralized portal and in partnership with all of the organizations, not just in the city of Memphis, but regionally, because we are one region, but having a centralized portal where we have the calendar of events, ways for people to engage. And then the second thing that I'd love to do is I want to meet people where they are. So we have to find the influencers in our community, the unapologetically Memphis, the folks that are on social media that are pushing things about our community. So we get the word out that way. We engage those influencers to make sure that they're passing along the messages around all of the amazing events, activities, and happenings in our communities in partnership with the arts community, because that's the way we truly engage the people of our city.
Thank you. So I lied. There is one more question. Again, I lied coming in and now I'm lying going out. So can you all please share with us your website or the best way to be in contact with you to learn more about your positions and platforms? I know a couple of you stated it, but I want to make sure we level the playing field. So we'll start with JW, who will be on his third plug, but let's go.
It's JW for mayor.com.
Thank you. I invite you to go visit my website, michelleformemphis.com, to learn more about my whole city Memphis plan. I cover so many topics and areas that are impactful to the future growth of Memphis, and I ask you to vote for me to be your next mayor of Memphis. Thank you.
Van.
You can go to banformemphis.com to find out more information about my candidacy for mayor. I passed a note to my wife when we were 14 years old. And I asked her on that note, would you go with me? Circle yes, circle no. Tammy circle yes. So I accomplished that audition. I was auditioning to her, baby, will you take me? And she took me, and we've been married for 21 years now. Aww. And so what I'm going to do is pass Memphis a note. I'm gonna pass the arts community a note. I'm gonna pass Beanhampton and Orange Mountain a note, South Memphis and North Memphis a note. And I'm gonna ask you to circle yes to Van Turner being your next mayor. Circle yes for proper support and appropriate support of our artists. Circle yes for the type of support that you need to make sure that you feel welcome, that you feel safe, and that you feel appreciated. Thank you very much. I'm rolling now.
I know, I gotta stop you.
All right. Youngformemphis.com is the website. You can follow us on all of the social platforms at Young for Memphis. Please do follow us. We're having an amazing time on this campaign journey. This campaign has momentum, has energy. We're out here to change Memphis, and we want you to be a part of the team.
Thank you. Join me in thanking these candidates. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. As a reminder, early voting starts in just 18 days. It starts September 15th and is through September 30th. And Election Day will occur on October 5th. Again, my name is Rachel Knox. It has been an honor to serve as your moderator, and I'm going to turn it over to Anasa Troutman to send you all home. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, what did we learn tonight, everybody? We learned that arts and artists are not just about cultural policy, they're about all policy. And we want y'all to know that the Memphis Cultural Coalition, no matter who wins, will be right there supporting you and holding your feet to the fire and making sure that we're in the room where it happens. That was so corny. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I couldn't resist. Okay, so if you are an arts leader and you want to be a part of the Memphis Cultural Coalition, there is a table outside where you checked in where Renisha is sitting. Make sure you go talk to her and let her, hi, how you doing? Make sure you give her your number, your name, your email address, and all those things. Follow us on Instagram, go to our website, talk to us in the hallway, and y'all please go vote. There's a Some of the schools are out the week of voting, so some folks are going to be on vacation. So please, 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 please early vote. Please early vote, y'all. Y'all, let's say it together. Let's early vote. Okay, very good. Please thank our candidates once more. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, Memphis Cultural Coalition will be back soon. All right. It's our first event, but not our last. We'll see y'all later. Good night. Be safe.